Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Okay, we're going to do some rambling today, so stay tuned. First thing I want to talk about is the Robs. The dust collection and everything is, what I showed everybody in the last video. It's doing very, very well. I'm really happy with it. But I'm going to have to revisit, for sure, the drums, my 6-inch and my 4-inch drums, to how it will work with this dust collection the way I have it set up now. So I have to take a closer look at that and make sure that that's still going to function properly before I do any more to it. So be ready for that. I may even do a video revisiting that with you, especially if I make any changes or improvements to it. So, which it's liable to happen. Also, I'm still working on my circle jig. I keep thinking about it, and then I stop thinking about it, and then I think about it. So eventually I'll come up with I've tried a couple of things on it, but we'll get there eventually. So, also, if you remember, I did that, one of my 3 battery packs that I have here around the shop for emergency use. I have my 100 amp hour battery. I have my 32 amp hour, which is 2 16 amp hour batteries in parallel, and I have that system. And then I have my Ryobi 4 battery power pack, and I just bought 2 more 9 amp hour batteries, and so now I have 4 of them. So now I can put all 4 of those 9 amps in there, and that gives me 32 amp hours, 36 amp hours of power in that little guy. And if you convert that to watts, it has more watt hours available than a 50 amp hour battery on a 12 volt system. So even though it's only 36 volts, because of the higher voltage of storage, you get more watt hours out of the thing. So, and it's just, so it's like having another 50 amp hour battery. It's my second strongest battery pack that I have, really. Anyway, enough about that. I just wanted to mention I did get 2 more, and now I got a full. I can put 4 of those in and come up with a real nice, pretty good sized battery. Something like, I think 600 and something, 640 maybe, 650. Anyway, somewhere in there, watt hours of power. So it's a fairly good size. It's a little bigger than the Jackery 500. So, in watt hours. So anyway, so much about those. What I really want to talk about today is I've been thinking more and more about designing my backup system. And the first thing I want to mention is, I'll leave it in the description, but Will Prowess, who is the solar king out there, he's probably one of the best known people if you want to know something about off-grid solar power and that sort of thing. Anyway, his video in the last couple of days was about making a hand cart power station that you can just plug in and have it work. Anyway, he's been making the 120 volt ones several times, and he made one now using the split phase inverter, all-in-one inverter, and put, did he put 1 or 2? I think he put 2 batteries on that thing. So he had 2 batteries on there and that inverter, and he had the biggest 2-wheel cart I ever saw for this thing. And so basically, that's like, you could take that unit, it already had the plug-in on it and everything. You could plug that in where you normally would plug in a generator and the same circuit, and you could run it off that battery pack, his inverter and everything, instead of the generator. You don't have to do any real wiring if you've already got a generator wired in. So you can just plug that in and you have instant power in your system if your power goes out. It's something I've been talking about off and on now for a while. So, but it got me to thinking, and when I saw him do it, well, first thing, you got to watch the video to know what some of this stuff I'm going to talk about. That big one that he made, the 240 volt split phase, if you're going to use that one, no. Go on, go lay down. That's Missy. Trying to get some attention. Anyway, the 240 volt split phase cart, that's the biggest 2-wheel dolly I ever saw. Anyway, if I was going to make that one, and that's actually kind of what I was thinking about doing, was something very similar to that. After seeing it, though, I'm not so sure. I do believe that he did make a mistake. And if I was going to do that cart, I would have made it a four-wheel cart. In fact, the Harbor Freight has 2 utility carts that you can look at. One's of them $100. It's 1,000. Stop it. It's 1,000 pound capacity, and then they have one that's a 1,200 pound capacity. Has pneumatic wheels on it, both of them. One is 10-inch, the other one has 13-inch tires. And so one of those would be perfect to use as the base for the whole battery rack and the inverter and all that, all the accessories. That would be the way to go. Then you pull it around with a handle like a little red wagon type thing. Because if you do 2 batteries and a split phase interface inverter and a couple other things you're going to end up needing, you're probably going to end up with probably 400 pounds of weight on this cart. So you want a pretty good sized cart to be able to move that around, and you can move it around with just a 4-wheel cart and a pull handle type of thing. If you really wanted to get inventive, you really could put a power drive on it if you wanted to on that little Harbor Freight cart and turn it into an electric cart so you can walk around and just pull it and just guide it along and just drive it from the motor. Anyway, those are crazy things I think about, but that is the way you want to, I think that's the way I want to do my cart, is make some kind of, my backup system is rather than having to set it against the wall and waiting to be used, I'm going to have it in a cart that I can just pull it out, plug it into the wall, flip the breakers, and I have power. So, but I also was thinking about that because I wonder, why can't you do something similar to the way the Delta Max, the EcoFlow, they had the whole home system where you buy 2 of their Delta Max Pros, I think it is, and then you buy what they call the double hub kit. It plugs into the side of each of them, and then you get 240 out of it. So you can just take that and plug a regular cord from that into your house, and you can run your house off those 2 Delta Max. Now, those 2 together only give you about 7,200 watt hours of storage, because they're about 3.6 kilowatts of kilowatt hours in the capacity. And you could add to them, but that basic system between 2 Delta Max and the hub system, that alone would run you about, it was $6,500. I see they got it on sale now for about $6,200. It's the easy way to go. If you really want to do something simple and easy and weren't worried about running out of battery, it's going to be off for a couple hours only, that system would work great. But then I'm thinking, if they can do that with the Delta, you have 2 separate power banks that you can pick up and carry and go and do things separately. Or if the power in the house goes out, bring them both in, plug in the hub and plug it into the power system, the grid on your house, and you have full power in your house instead so that you can still function. But it is pretty small on the capacity, so I think that for dollar, you can make your own using the all-in-one solar panels like the LVX 6048, I think it is. The split phase, low frequency, 6,000 watt hour, 6,000 watt capacity. It has an MPPT controller, or actually has 2 of them in there with some nice voltage that you can put in. So you can put some pretty good size arrays, solar arrays to them if you want. And it has 120 amp, up to, it depends on which brand you go with. You can get up to 120 amp charger built into it. So when you're on grid, you can just run that and it'll help keep that battery charged up for you. Anyway, I'm looking at a system where, if you've seen people make that using the smaller 3,000 watt inverter with a server battery, putting it all on a 2-wheel cart, and you can roll it around. It weighs around 200 pounds, a little less, and so it's pretty manageable on a cart. So I'm thinking, why can't you take 2 of those, have them on their batteries, and then if you need, you can take and plug them in together with that, make your own hub. So you can take both of them and plug them into your house. Now, instead of having 7,200 watt hours of storage to work from, you would have, if you have only 1 server battery on each, that would give you 10 kilowatts right there. So I'm thinking about, maybe I should make 2 carts, both of them identical, and they run on 120 volts. so that if I want, I can take that cart and take it somewhere and use it as a 110-volt temporary power source. Just roll it around on the two-wheel cart aspect. And if the power goes out, I got them both for that. So anyway, it gives you more flexibility with the system rather than building it all from one split-phase inverter and your two batteries and everything mounted all together as one unit. No reason why you can't really break that into 2 units if you wanted to. Anyway, it's a thought. So, in other words, I'm saying if EcoFlow can make a unit where you take 2 units and put them together to give you 240 volts, why can't you do that with the mobile cart type if you just DIY it? So, anyway, I'm thinking about making 2 carts then. Each of them are 3,000 kilowatt or 3 kilowatt units, and then have them come together to give me a split phase to plug it into the house with just some kind of hub that I can create. So, rather than making one cart. Anyway, I know I'm rambling, but those are my thoughts about that. And I think that it probably, either way, would be a good handy unit to have for a backup system. And you can very easily and quickly add batteries to that system pretty cheaply. Because you had one battery and you had 5 kilowatts of power on the system. So if you put 2 more batteries, one on each of the 2 carts, if you go with that system, then you have 20 kilowatts of power all of a sudden that you can have for that. And those would be very good size. So if you made your cart with 2 batteries and an inverter making up the bulk of your system, your cart would be a little bit heavy, but it would still be manageable, I think, with a some kind of 2-wheel cart. But probably you might even want to consider doing something like that on a 4-wheel cart. So I don't know. I'd have to really look at it and scrutinize that. But that's what I'm thinking, is making it so it's also expandable and just make a two-wheel cart version that I can actually put 1 or 2 batteries onto the system if I want. So I don't know. Or maybe I'll just find a way to connect batteries to it, and I can keep separate batteries I can bring out and set there and plug them in. And then they would help the system by going to doubling your capacity just by connecting up another battery in a very short order if needed. So I don't know. That seemed a little elaborate for my needs, so I doubt if I'll go that far. But if a person wanted to, they could do that, something along that line. Rather than just putting everything in one spot and tying it down and leaving it there, I don't know what's wrong with making it mobile and using a plug-in cord on the thing instead, so that if you need it, you can use it here. If you need to take it somewhere else to use it, that's an awful lot of power that you can haul around somewhere and unload and use it somewhere else if you need to in an emergency. So, anyway, food for thought. I think also, as I talked about before, I'm going to set, however I make this final unit for my backup system, it really has to be a mobile unit, because my fuse panel is right inside the side door of the house. It's kind of the main door where everybody seems to come and go to come in and out of the house. And it's kind of like a family room reception area. And then you walk through to get to the living room and the kitchen and that sort of thing. So it's right there at a central location, and I don't want that all filled with wires and batteries sitting there against the wall and all that at that spot particularly. So to make a mobile unit, all I would have to have on the wall is one cabinet that is hidden with the sub-panel setup that I would need to be able to plug this in. And I can take that cart and roll it into another area of the house, out of the way, put it on a trickle charger so that every 6 months it just charges it up or something. And then it'll be ready to go if I need it. So anyway, these are kind of my thoughts about that. As far as charging it while I'm using it, I would use the generator to replenish the battery if the long-term outage, instead of just hours. If I have to recharge those batteries, I'll just use the generator for now to recharge it. And I think that'll work, and I'll have to run that generator 4 or 5 hours a day to keep up while the grid is down. So I will eventually think about solar, and I am thinking about that. Let me talk about that for a minute, my initial thoughts. Obviously, whatever I do in solar is going to be based on whatever I do with the all-in-one power unit that I use, whether it's the EG4 or SunPower or Go Watt or whatever brand I end up using. The amount of solar it would take to keep that charging through that can vary quite a bit from one unit to the next. So I'll make the decision on the solar as it gets there. But I'm also thinking that for the solar, rather than having fixed panels on the ceiling, like I said before, if the power goes out, what I would like to have is a kit of solar panels that I have on a cart, maybe one of those Harbor Freight carts. I can put probably 8 400-watt panels on there. And those panels are manageable. They're like 6 by 40 inches, 6 foot one way and 40 inches the other. And you all have them all sitting on the cart so you can roll it in and out. All I have to do is that if I'm going to be long term and the thing is plugged in and I want to recharge it from solar, I could throw my solar out theoretically in 20 minutes on the driveway or on the back patio and run the cord in and plug it in. And I can have 800 watts of solar power going in, giving me a pretty good charge on that system so that I don't have to use the generator as much, if at all, depending on how much power I use. So for this third part of this, the solar power, rather than making a permanent fixture on any of my roofs, I think I would like to put together a kit of the cart with how many panels I think I can comfortably fit on that cart, with enough space left over for any bracketry and things like that, so I can just set them out, set them on the ground and put them at a good angle and just set them up, and then I would just plug everything in to the wires in one way in particular every time I set them up, and then I would have that row of panels set up that I then can pull and just run it above ground and plug it in on the side of the house, where then that would go over to where the unit normally would be, so I can just plug it directly into it while it's sitting outside. And then at night, if it's out front, I can take them down at night and put them back out in the morning. If it's set up in the back here, I could probably just leave it up as long as the weather isn't too bad and I don't have a problem with them, a lot of wind trying to blow them over or something. So, which normally we don't get a lot of wind around this area, so I don't think that would ever be a major problem. But I want to put together some kind of to-go kit with a cart for my solar that I can take them all out one at a time, spend a half hour or an hour, whatever it takes, get them all set up so that when the sun comes out, they can take all day long and charge up the system if I need it. And be able to take it, put it up, and take it down and put it back on the cart in a minimum amount of time. So that it's just a temporary setup. And I only would need it is if I'm going to go off power for several days. Then I might want to do that rather than having to fire the generator up as often. So that's my food of thoughts. I think that's kind of where my whole system will end up. At this point, I am working on the second leg of it. The first one was the generator itself, and I'm very happy with that system. I've used it a few times since I put that in there, 5 or 6 years ago probably. I'm just guessing right offhand. And it's worked very well for me. It's a Predator 8550 from Harbor Freight. I bought it. I probably got about $800 for that thing. So it was a pretty good price considering what they are now. So, and it's been very dependable unit for starting. It's been awesome. So I am going to hook that up to natural gas instead of gasoline, so I won't have to keep filling it. And I am going to put a battery system with a twinkle charger on it so that the battery will stay charged, so that if I ever lose power, I can just walk out there and fire it up with the electric start. So that's a lot easier than pulling that pull start. Whew. Especially me, my age and that thing. It actually won. The last time I tried to pull start it, I had to finally get the battery out and start it. So anyway, I'm very happy with it. It's been a good first step. I think this battery pack is going to be the second step of my system. So then I'll be able to go multiple days between the generator and the battery pack to plug into the whole house. That will keep me in electric power if we lose power for any length of time. And the third leg will be I'll put together a small solar pack, enough that on a good solar day, I won't have to run the generator at all, maybe, on a really good day. So, but we'll see. I'm not sure what size it's going. I'm just starting to really evaluate and learn more about how to set up a solar pack and to do it based on your input of what you want. So I'm looking at different options. Like I said, I like the idea of having it to where I can take it and put it up and take it down rather than it being on the roof 24/7. So we'll see how that goes. I hope if you have any questions or any thoughts about the whole house battery system that I want to do, like I said, I still don't know for sure whether I'm going to go with two wheel units or go with one with the split phase and everything all in one unit. I'm still toying with that idea back and forth. I'll figure it out. And once I do, I'll let you know. Any thoughts or suggestions, let me know, because since it's still in the thought process, the designing phase, who knows where this is going to go. Anyway, those are kind of the things I've been thinking about lately. Haven't done much work in the shop. I've been pretty lazy, but I guess that comes as I get older and older. I find myself working less and less and thinking more and more. So, anyway, good days and bad days. That's what it is. But we keep moving along. We keep trying to come up with new projects. So, if you have something in particular you want to think about or talk about or ask about, bounce off me. Just leave it in the comments. I'll find some way to talk about it. Maybe. You know how I am. Sometimes I'm shy about that stuff. So, but really, I would enjoy it. And hopefully we'll see you guys again. So that's about it. I think that's all I really wanted to talk about. I do have several projects still I want to get done. But I've been thinking heavy about this battery backup since I'm almost ready to pull the trigger and buy the batteries and the all-in-one so I can start building that. And of course, I'll let you know as it goes along what I'm doing and why, and hopefully get you to see what the end product looks like once I get it completely done, so you can see how it works. If it works according to the way I think it will. So anyway, leave your thoughts and all that. If you learned something here, you like this video, hit that like button. Lets me know I did something right. Most importantly though, please come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.